And that leads us into our first guest here, who is Dan Godin from the Federation of Communities and Urban Planning. Take a look.
Divided into 4 quadrants, Calgary boasts over 198 communities, each area unique in their own right, from their surroundings to their residents to programs. What's encouraging is that these communities continue to show their innovation through community visioning, a proactive way for community associations to get ahead of planning and development issues in their neighborhoods. Is it any wonder that Calgary Communities remain strong?
Important?
Well, it's really important because I think I deal a lot with the planning committees with community associations, and what they're always trying to deal with is they're reacting a lot of the time to development that's happening in their neighborhoods. But I think what visioning does is it gives you a chance to kind of step back and really think hard about what you want to see in the future, I guess. And I think having that background is really helpful when you're kind of looking at development in your neighborhood and saying, like, what do we want this to be? Because you know what you want to end up with in the future.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the newer communities, would you say, how are they being visioned beforehand, or are they, like the older communities, reacting?
Well, some of the newer communities, I guess it depends how new it is, but the newest ones have the vision is there from the developer, so they're building it out, right? And so they're not usually at the stage where they're kind of being redeveloped, but it's the inner city communities right now, for the most part, that are kind of dealing with this development pressure and sort of how to guide that in a way that really suits the community. Yeah.
Are they knowledgeable enough, though? I mean, sure, some people live in those communities. Yeah. But, Kata, I don't know, do you think that...
I think that it really depends on the community. I think it's also one of the difficulties is that most communities aren't, they're not monolithic. There's a lot of different opinions about how a community should develop, both from the people who live there and who work there and the developers who are coming in and may have bought land there. So I think it's complex, and it's necessarily complex. I think it's and it's ongoing change. A neighborhood isn't one thing and stays that way forever. Yeah. The city changes, the neighborhoods change, and it's ways of finding how to communicate that and negotiate that.
And I think in terms of visioning, they are the experts. They're the local experts. So whether they know a lot about planning, which is kind of our role, is to help them learn a bit more about planning so that they can translate their ideas for the community into planning language. But they know their neighborhoods, so they're the experts.
Some would say you're providing just a little lip service. That these planners already have an agenda. They already have something in mind, so that even this visioning that might be going on is just kind of like, yeah, okay, thanks for your information, but this is really how we're going to do things, and we're just going to try to skew you that way. How would you react to something like that? Well,
I think planning it's a lot more flexible than I think people want it to be sometimes. So really, nothing is set in stone a lot of the time. So it's sort of a guide for the future. So, when they have this vision, it's not necessarily going to be this is exactly what we're going to get, but it's something that you can kind of look back to every time there's development happening in your community. You can think, does this suit our vision? So it's more of it's a flexible thing, It's not a set in stone plan.
I think a lot of times too, the impression that people get is the community's opportunity is only to say no. Yeah. Here's a development, okay, community, you get to say no. And I think with really progressive planning and visioning, communities get the opportunity to say ahead of time, this is the type of development that we'd like to see happen, and here's how we progressively want our community
So we strongly suggest.
Yeah. We strongly suggest, but also here's what would fit, here's what, and for developers too, that's really helpful, because then they're not spending time, wasting time and money trying to fight a community on a project that's just not going to be a good fit. Right? Yeah. So if the developer knows ahead of time, this is what they think will fit, then they can try and create the plans in a way that are going to be accepted and be, not even just accepted, but be an addition and a useful addition to that community.
Yeah. What are we looking for in Calgary and our communities right now? What are the majority of people wanting?
That's hard to say.
I guess it depends on where you are in the city, but is there an overall...
Space?
Yeah, I mean, there were themes at the community visioning that we did, would have been 2 weeks ago now, in Richmond, Nob Hill, and Killarney Glengarry. a lot of the themes that you hear are common across, you hear them everywhere. It's like people want green space. They want to be able to walk to the coffee shop or the corner store or the grocery store. So those are they want everything in their community a lot of the time. And I can't say that for everyone, but there are themes, yeah.
Yeah, I can just see these community meetings going like this, though. I want more green space. Well, I want more coffee shops. I want more of this. Is anything really resolved? Well, I mean, it's an attempt. At least it's an attempt.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the advantage of the visioning, is that it kind of avoids that conflict. We're not planning anything right there. So the idea is that you look at the year 2065 and think, how do we, you look at 2065 and say, look at your community and how everything is perfect in that year, and then you think back and how did we get there? And so,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's making some difference.
Yeah, and it leaves it open, so any idea can go out on the table instead of it's green space or coffee shop. You can have both.
Dan Godin is the Federation Urban Planner. So great to have you on panel this morning. Thank you kindly, sir, for being here.